Good afternoon. First of all, thanks for joining this seminar. So I've prepared a short presentation. I know there's half an hour on the agenda. Probably take about 15 minutes. I also welcome our Vice President of Sustainability from the US, Balaji, and Barry, my colleague on the commercial team at Berlin as well. So if there's any questions you've got afterwards, then hopefully there'll be three of us that will be able to help you. So just in way of an introduction, so my name's James Senior. I've been working with the Berlin Group since just May of this year. Prior to that, 8 years packaging experience in the beauty sector with Tolly products, and prior to that another 7 years packaging experience more in the personal care markets. So really the aim today was to make a bit of an introduction as to how we see glass packaging for makeup products, because I think probably when people tend to think about makeup products, largely speaking, maybe with the exception of liquid foundations, we tend to associate them being in plastic packs. This is just to give another perspective. So before I start talking about makeup in glass from Berlin Packaging, I just want to briefly explain Berlin Packaging Premi Industries in case that's not clear to people. So Berlin Packaging, you may know, are the largest hybrid supplier of packaging in the world, and at the turn of the year joined forces with Premi. Now Premi, reasonably young in packaging supplier terms, 22 years old, Italian based and privately owned until the buyout at the beginning of this year. And Premi really focused in the beauty sector across fragrance, which represents about 25% of the business, cosmetics, which is around 25%, and skincare at 50%. But the business goes far beyond just being a packaging supplier. So the business offers in-house design. That could be brand design and support, artworking. We have the ability to make real colour samples on finished glass. We can design the secondary packaging right through to turnkey and fulfillment as well. So it's a business that brands and customers can plug into us and use as much or as little of the services that they require, depending on their capabilities within their business as well. Okay, so back to makeup in glass. That's why we're here today. So Berlin Premi Industries is focused towards, but not exclusively towards, glass. So it means I'm speaking, I guess, from a reasonably impartial perspective today, as we supply multiple materials, plastics, aluminiums as well. So from designing and building all of our own moulds, and I think that's quite important. So a lot of the shapes that you see, if you have the time to go to our stand outside, you'll see they're all bespoke moulds owned by Premi Berlin Industries. So from creating and designing all of our own moulds with a focus towards the masstige and prestige segments of the beauty market, we've created a very clever and extensive range of premium glass packaging for makeup products. So this could be mascaras, it could be eyeliners, concealers, brow gels, and liquid foundations, and many more cosmetic products. Now, the makeup in glass range features very cleverly two sizes of bottles, 5ml and 10ml, and we call them our VIP range. The bottles have the same neck, that'll become important in a moment, and they're thick glass, premium glass in feel and appearance, and they really open themselves up to endless decoration possibilities as well. Now, the generic screw neck has been designed to give optimum flexibility for brands wanting to build a product portfolio. So, three cap options. You have the VIP cap, which is the shorter profile cap here, and that's a PP cap with an aluminium shell over the top of it. You have the extra VIP cap, which is the taller cap on the other side there. Again, PP with an aluminium shell. And then we have our re-VIP cap, which is PP only, or with the option of PCR PP, so a bit more eco-focused on the closure. Okay, so what does this mean? This means that you can build up the range if you want to create a varied skyline, and this can be easily done just with 2 packs or 3 cap options. The closures can then be combined with a range of accessories that allow the creation of specific products for face and lips. These range from flocked applicators for concealers, foundation or lip gloss, to fine brushes focused towards eyeliners, and a range of mascara applicators in different shapes to obtain different applications and claims. Now, the variety of different applicators with different caps allow the creation and consistent designs for collections that can be launched with limited production lines, because ultimately you're running one shape of bottle in 2 sizes, so same diameter, same capping force as well. The collection also allows brands to launch makeup products in glass that have a higher chance of being recycled at the end of its life as well. Now, we know globally that more glass is recycled, with European figures, I think, at around 75-76% of all glass going into manufacturing. I think in Germany and Switzerland it's somewhat higher than that, and the UK, I think, is just running at under 70%. Now, with glass also comes the benefit of it being endlessly recyclable without any degradation to the quality as well. You have a perception of increased value, and that doesn't actually translate into the cost of the packaging as well. So the consumer's getting a premium weight product without necessarily, as the brand, paying extra for the packaging. Here is also where you can utilize our in-house expertise when it comes to design as well, working with brands to create beautiful packaging through the surface decoration. So you can see some simple examples there on the slide that we have on the screen. So whatever the techniques, maybe it's silk screen or hot foil, which are quite standard techniques, through to lacquers with graduation, metallization, or even 3D inkjet printing. Again, we've got an example on the stand if you want to see 3D inkjet printing. It's quite interesting because it's essentially a printing technique with a thicker base that creates the illusion of having a custom mold. So without the excess spend in investing in a glass mold, you can print across the top of a bottle. You can then apply a lacquer if you want a colour, or metallization across the top of it. So it looks quite clever. So we've got that on the stand to show you. In addition to the previously mentioned applicators, the bottles can also take roll-on caps, crossing into the fragrance category, droppers and pipettes for cosmetics and skincare, and simple screw-on caps for refills. So sustainable and glam. The thick glass that is more resistant with its thick base can be decorated gloss, matte or transparent. Consideration too has gone into the location of manufacture. I should stress that, with tools replicated in Asia and also in Europe. So not only can this give brands quicker speed to market, but as focused effort to reduce transport costs and also the environmental impacts of shipping heavier products halfway around the world. European brands can therefore take advantage of our manufacturing facilities in Italy and Poland. Furthermore, advances have been made into the reductions of fossil fuels used in production as well. I should stress, being located in the north of Italy, we're quite fortunate. We're on the doorsteps of many of the world's leading contract manufacturers of cosmetics products, and we partner with many of them quite closely. We have a division that we call our Premi Formula team, working in collaboration with these partners if customers want to work on a fulfillment or a turnkey arrangement with ourselves. I should also highlight that with the European production comes the ability to mould in PCR as well, with a minimum of 15%. And Berlin is also working on a standard to build traceability of the cullet as well in the packaging. Balaji can perhaps talk about this in a bit more detail afterwards. So, although we know more energy is used in the production of glass, considerations in the group have been made to offset these as much as possible with the localised production that I talked about. Also important to note that glass is inert as well, and less porous than plastic. It has a high resistance to leaching as well. So from a packaging perspective, you could say that glass today provides a relatively sustainable option and an alternative to plastics. So alongside the benefits of the packs being more premium in appearance, they're resistant, they're recyclable, they're able to be highly decorated and less permeable. Now, there's great strides also being made towards, there's great strides being made to move towards using more renewable electricity and power plants. So an example that I was researching, Adar, for example, use 80% renewable electricity, which sees a 60% reduction in CO2 as well. Our manufacturing facility in Europe uses water-based lacquers, limiting the amount of polluting substances. And furthermore, this doesn't restrict the product's recyclability at end of life. In addition, the plants we partner have already been using electric furnaces for the melting of glass, again to see a significant saving in CO2 emissions. And this also, I guess in today's climate, provides a certain degree of resilience with the energy crisis that we see as well in Europe. I think it's prudent to point out these step changes that have been made in recent years when or if you're considering glass. So, in summary, to recap, no pun intended. Berlin Premi Industries VIP range, 2 bottles, 3 cap options, and endless possibilities and combinations achieved through decoration and an extensive range of applicators. premium luxury packaging and flexibility. The MOQs with Premi in most cases, or Berlin Premi Industries, I beg your pardon, are 5,000 pieces, and that includes decoration as well, so super flexibility. And this really supports, I think, a trend that we're seeing, an exciting trend in the UK with indie brands, with niche brands starting up in the last 5, 6, 7 years, trying to support those brands grow. As I mentioned, we have Balaji with us, so I'm sure some of you might have some questions, perhaps, around sustainability. So free to take any questions you might have, so thank you for listening. Largely probably the material, resistance around.
Technically, glass substances are very inert, so you basically are, it's almost providing you like a protective barrier compared to other substrates. So as a result, it withstands at a higher temperature, right? So the temperature element of it, the prevention of leakages, right? So, and the molecular structure of glass is also very tightly knit, so that's what we call it as inert as a part of that compared to other substrates as such. So.
There's got to be some more questions. Of course you can, Jackie. Yeah, I mean the resistance, so I think I'm correct in saying that we're using type 1 glass as well, so the resistance is higher to breakage.
So in the glasses, can you hear me? So in the glasses, there are two different types, right? That's type 1, type 2, type 3 versus borosilicate glasses. So borosilicate glasses are the ones which kind of has got a higher breakage. Type 1 tend to be a little bit more sturdier with respect to shipping as well as with respect to the storage as well. So those are like what we call it is a thick resistant kind of a glass. So you can see a comparison of like let's say Pyrex, like for cookware. Those are borosilicate. Those are like if you put it down by mistake, it kind of breaks you down into multiple pieces. But here these glasses are very much like a double wall, very thick. So even if let's say something happens, you might just find a small micro crack, but it does not like break like in shatter resistance. Yeah. So that's what we when we go through the drop. It's one of those things when we go, we kind of do stability testing, drop testing as a part of this element. So especially for travel size packages, that's another way that we kind of test it as well.
I should also mention, I guess, to help brands in their development, it's not unique to glass, but as a business, we work with brands with their formulation as well, so to offer a greater degree of testing, resistance against the decoration as well. So if there's concerns as to how different formulations will react with the surface decoration, we offer those tests in-house as well. Sure, shoot. Good question.
Depend on those size products or whether it's larger products, but I would say up to 5 passes on a standard item, a larger item in the range. But I would say for those 2 to 3, depending on the artwork.
Three I know is okay. Yeah, 3 is definitely okay. I don't know whether we can go up to 5 on that size though. In beauty, yes. A number of the projects we're working on in beauty, so if I look at skincare as well, refillability for sure. We're seeing a large drive towards that. So Premi has an offering of refillable airless packs, glass, with cream and serum pumps and also spray pump options as well. So there is a large focus in the group definitely towards refillability. We work with one of the leading UK cosmetics brands and produce their refillable glass jars as well. And there's a new development that we'll be launching at Bologna. So without letting Cosmoprof Bologna, so without letting the cat out of the bag too early, there's another interesting. I wouldn't say it's necessarily refillable. You could look at it and say it's refillable, but I would say it's more premium luxury on the go. I don't know if that answers your question, but yeah, refillability.
So, um, so when you look at from a glass manufacturing, there are two elements that pertains to it. So the one is the internal cullet, that the glass that is being processed within that particular plant. The other one is the external, like when I buy glass from outside as well. So traditionally, the glass manufacturers have never kind of figured out how much cullet that they may be gently using. They have minimum usage. So what we are building is a couple of things. The first thing is the traceability to identify what is the percentage of either an internal cullet or external cullet that gets into the melting furnace. So which helps on two fronts, right? One is on the less energy side because you're going to have less energy use. So from a carbon footprint communications or claims, that helps you on one. The second thing the traceability gives for a brand company, the visibility into the sustainability attribute, saying that our product consists of minimum of, let's say, 23 to almost 60% cullet aspect. The third element is like, especially as you look in beauty products, if it's not a clear glass requirement, like, what I mean is like, if you don't necessarily need a very super white, super clear, even if you have a light traces of tints of blue, tints of even white, you can add like a lot of sustainability features like PCR as well. So the traceability helps us for us on two fronts. It really helps us to identify what the brand requires. Like I need a particular product with a higher PCR. We can basically choose, okay, I think this can be a potential opportunity, this particular furnace. So we can even go down to that furnace level with respect to glass as well. So sorry, it's a long answer, but it really helps for the brand to communicate very effectively to their end market consumer as such. So.
If we're talking beauty, broadly speaking, yes, is the short answer for sure. And for me, it was one of my motivators to actually join with Premier in Berlin. I could see that trend happening, and the fact that a large amount of our manufacturing is in Europe for the European market is also beneficial as well. For cosmetics, we are supplying glass into some of the leading cosmetics brands in Italy. I would say, and this is why it's interesting to stand up in front of you all and talk a bit more, I would say with these types of products, I don't think people and brands automatically think about glass. I know there's a lady speaking, I think this afternoon from Junie, and I understand her ethos is really not to use plastic, and I think she's quite pro-aluminium. So I think we're starting to see it on cosmetics, but not at the accelerated rate that we see in skincare.
So what they call it is, I mean, like we are kind of substrate agnostic. The way that we see some of, especially in the luxury world, they consider something like plastic detox. That's the term that they use. So you see that particular movement coming in, but at the same time, even within the plastics world as well, there has been a movement towards more towards PCR. Because it's almost balancing what's the availability, what's the cost price point that you want to enter, plus all the sustainability features. It's really managing trade-offs. And when you're looking from a luxury side, it's really what is the trade-off that I'm willing to compromise, at what price point, at what MOQ. So there's a lot of this thing comes into pack. But the most important thing still, when we look at from a trend perspective, it's the line of sight, right? What's my first line of sight when I'm looking at a luxury product? And glass kind of tends to be a little bit more aspect. And also depending on what channels, like if you're an omni-channel, and if you're subscription based, which is a little bit different, you can also look in that way. So it's a combination of things, but it really depends upon what consumers that you would like to achieve this particular results.
Cool. Any last takers? No? All right, thank you very much. Thanks ever so much for listening.